Hi, everyone. There are a couple of pretty big changes going on in the real estate world, and I want you to know about those because they will affect you. The two changes are specifically, if you want to go out and tour a home in person moving forward, you're going to have a buyer agreement in place with a licensed real estate agent. And the second biggest change we're going to talk about is how commissions are structured. And this all resulted from a huge class action lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors and some of the biggest firms in the country. So let's start with commissions. All right, so here are the way that the commissions have been structured over the past few decades. If you're a homeowner and you want to sell your home, you're going to go out and hire a listing company, and you're going to contract with them. You're going to have in place what we call a listing agreement or exclusive right to list agreement. And within that listing agreement are going to be some pretty important terms. Two terms are the actual commission that you're going to be paying them. And commissions have always been negotiable. You've always had a right to negotiate your commission with any given firm, or you can move on to the next firm and try to negotiate with them. So understand that. But more times than not, we would see a homeowner might pay somewhere between 5 and 6% to a listing firm. And within that agreement, especially in North Carolina and South Carolina, which are the two states I'm intimately familiar with because I'm licensed in both, but within that listing agreement, not only would it spell out the total commissions that the homeowner was going to pay their listing firm, but also how much of that was going to be used to compensate any buyer's agents out there, anyone who procures the buyer. All right, and it's always been that way for as long as I've been in real estate, which is since 1999. All right, now, part of the responsibilities of the listing firm is to market your property and to hopefully sell it and get you all the way through the transaction. But part of marketing a property means, well, we're going to list that on the multiple listing service, which is like the first thing any realtor will do because that is the main database of all the homes for sale out there. All the data that agents enter when they're entering your home's information goes into the MLS, and then it trickles out to all the the big portal websites and HendricksProperties.com. So it all starts with MLS, but a requirement for the listing firm, in order to put it in the MLS, they had to offer some commission to the buyer's agent. Now, it could be $1, it could be $25, it could be 1%. But most of the time, you typically see somewhere between 2 and 3%. 2.5% is what I saw most frequently, probably. But again, that's negotiable. So now if we go over to the buying side, if you're a buyer and you want to be represented in your purchase, you're going to go out and hire a firm to represent you as your buyer's agent. And within that buyer's agency agreement, you're also going to have some important terms, such as how much your listing firm is expecting to get paid for representing you. And that's a negotiable fee. It always has been. But you might see 2%, 2.5%, 3%. And within that North Carolina or South Carolina buyer agency agreement, it also always clearly spelled out that the buyer is responsible for making sure that their agent gets paid whatever the agreement is for. But it also specifically stated that the buyer's agent would always go to the listing firm to seek their compensation there first. And so what happened in general practice is that buyers rarely had to come out of pocket to pay their buyer's agent because the listing firm 99 times out of 100 was already offering the buyer agent fee through their offer of compensation in the MLS. Are you following me so far? All right, well, that's going to be changing, and here's why. So over in the state of Missouri, this is the way I understand it, but there was a couple that signed a listing agreement with their firm, and they got all the way to the closing table. They sold their house, got all the way to the closing table, the big day. And they get there, and they're looking at the breakdown of charges and everything, and for whatever reason, it hits them all of a sudden, I guess, that, wait a minute, so essentially we're paying a buyer's agent, we're paying all the commission, so essentially we're paying a buyer's agent to negotiate against us? Now, in reality, that fee is really kind of a marketing fee that listing agents they're taking part of that total commission and using it to market your property by attracting as many buyer's agents as they can. But for whatever reason, these sellers had an issue with it, and they said they viewed it as them paying out money to another agent to negotiate against them. And this couple, again, the way I understand it, they went out and hired this attorney, and he said, hey, let's make this into a class action lawsuit. And I don't know if he saw dollar signs, but they made hundreds of millions of dollars, by the way. But they turned that into a class action lawsuit and sued the National Association of Realtors, and then sued all these firms that were like the umbrella companies over pretty much every firm you've ever heard of. Every real estate firm was sued. Even individual agents like me, we were sued under that class action lawsuit. And we're going to be paying much higher dues to the National Association of Realtors over the next several years to help pay for all these lawsuits. And the thing is, nobody was even hurt. No one was harmed. But a lot of changes are happening because of this. So I'm getting a little bit long-winded here. I apologize. But all right, so that's how commissions used to work. But as a result of these lawsuits, there were two big terms that were agreed upon that need to take place. And the powers that be, the Department of Justice, the judges, whoever ended up enforcing this, said there were two big things that need to change. Number one, listing agents are no longer permitted to offer any compensation to buyer's agents on the MLS. Now, they can do it off the MLS. A buyer's agent can call, text, or reach out or email a listing agent and say, hey, are y'all offering any compensation if I bring a buyer to your listing? Yeah, they can do that. There are roundabout ways of doing that. But on the actual MLS, listing agents are no longer permitted to offer any compensation to buyer's agents. That is prohibited. Matter of fact, agents will be fined in a big way, possibly lose their license if they mention anything about offered commissions on the MLS. So essentially what is happening is that this lawsuit, the powers that be, want the two commissions to be separated more, or in other words, decoupled is the term they use. They want the seller to pay their agent. They want the buyers to pay their agent. Simple, right? Well, one of the big issues that a lot of us realtors are concerned about is actually it's not us. A lot of us are concerned about buyers out there who are going to see this as some huge fee that they've got to pay now, and they're not going to understand the value that good agents bring, and they're going to try to go into a transaction, possibly by going directly to the listing agent, completely unrepresented, and get themselves in a whole lot of hot water because so many things can happen in the course of any given real estate transaction. So that's one of our big worries. But in reality, here's what's likely to happen. I don't see a whole lot changing. If you were a buyer out there right now, and many of you watching this, you're watching this because you spent some time on my website, and that's one of the reasons you're getting this video. Many of you buyers out there, what you need to know is that the chance of you having to come out of pocket or to pay your agent are very slim. And here's why. If you hire an agent like us, we're going to try to find the house that you want to purchase. And then we're going to go to that listing agent and approach them directly and find out, are you already offering any compensation to buyer's agents? If they say no, then we can still make an offer and ask the seller to, as part of the offer, to give you a certain amount of closing costs, which will cover not only your regular closing costs, but also your agent costs. So there are ways of building that in. But the biggest thing you need to be aware of is, and decision you need to make is, are you going to hire representation? You absolutely should. I'm telling you that. I promise you that. But that is one of the biggest decisions you're going to make. But if you do, don't automatically be scared or don't automatically jump to the conclusion that you're going to have to come out of your pocket thousands of dollars, because there are ways of working that in, and probably in all reality, listing agents are going to find a way to offer that commission, or the sellers understanding that they want to attract the most buyers and buyers agents as possible. The sellers of the property are probably already going to be willing to compensate buyers agents. They just can't do it through the MLS anymore. So that's the commission part of it. Hopefully that makes sense. The second thing that's happening as part of the decision of this lawsuit is that now, moving forward, all buyers, if you want to go tour property, you've got to have a buyer agreement with an agent of your choosing. In times past, you could be a serious buyer, or you could just be bored on a Sunday afternoon, and chances are you could make some calls and find some agent that will be willing to just go out and show you a property without any agreement, without you having to present any sort of pre-approval or proof of funds, because there are a lot of hungry agents out there. But they're making that change, and that is a change I actually think is positive. And if you're a buyer right now watching this, I want you to understand that when you sign a buyer agreement with an agent, like us, for instance, or anyone else, you can negotiate the terms of that. You may find an agent that you want to go show you that home, but you can negotiate that agreement is only for that particular home, or just for that particular day, or that part of town, or that particular suburb. You can negotiate anything you want, but you've got to sign some sort of an agreement. And here's the other positive part of that, is that it forces you, the consumer, or it forces the buyer's agent to do a better job explaining to you how everything works. Because when they're giving you that working with a real estate agent's brochure and the buyer agency agreement to sign, it gives you a chance to really read it and understand it. And that's important for most of us realtors. Really want you, the consumer, to be educated as much as possible. And I mean that. So don't be alarmed by that. So in summary, hopefully this video hasn't been too long for you. In summary, the two big changes coming up are, if you're wanting to tour a home, you're going to have an agreement in place with the buyer's agent. And you're better off finding one you really want to work with, someone with great reviews, and just go with them and trust them. And the second thing you need to know is that you're going to have to be prepared that you might possibly have to come out of pocket to pay your agent if and when the time comes. Chances are they'll be able to work that into the offer to where you're not coming out of pocket, but that possibility is there. So hopefully this has been helpful. If you have any questions about anything I've said in this video, or you want to talk about your needs, buying or selling, please just reach out anytime. We're happy to help and answer any questions you have. So take care.